The woman lay quietly on the sofa, exhausted. At that moment, her mother-in-law suddenly walked in. The mother-in-law noticed her daughter's thin clothes. She showed some discontent. The woman quickly buttoned her clothes. The mother-in-law reminded her that being too cold could prevent her from conceiving. It turned out to be the woman's ovulation day. The mother-in-law arrived on time with fertility medicine. The woman's name is Gao Hualan. She is a top host at JBC News. Today is the annual News Award ceremony again. Gao Hualan looks glamorous and confident. She has won the Best News Award for 5 consecutive years. But just before the main award is revealed, she is informed by the organizers that she can only go on stage as a presenter this time. She looks confused, but she smiles and walks up to the podium. At that moment, a glamorous and graceful girl from the crowd appears, who caught her attention. The girl is the new radio host. She stands out among her generation. Facing the challenge of being new, she seemed a bit flustered. When the host was about to read the winners list, she slowly opened the envelope and took out the list inside, but she nervously avoided looking at the list. The reporters in the audience noticed her hesitation. The girl shot a provocative glance to her. The host nearby tried to ease the awkwardness. He directly called out Gao Hualan's name. She looked down and realized she was the winner. The venue erupted in enthusiastic applause. It turned out this was intentional by the organizers. They just wanted to give her a surprise. At that moment, the girl holding flowers walked to the podium to congratulate her. The two embraced warmly on stage for a photo. Soon, their photo spread across the internet, but netizens overwhelmingly praised the newcomer Han Ji-eun as young and beautiful. They mocked Gao Hualan for being older. This marks the beginning of a generational shift. At that moment, Han Ji-eun walked into the room. She disdainfully mocked her senior. She didn't know what she's still holding on to at Gao Hualan's age. Gao Hualan turned and smiled slightly. She didn't regard this young newcomer at all. She then left gracefully. Facing the newcomer's provocation, Gao Hualan decided to take the initiative. During a live news broadcast, she suddenly posed several unexpected questions to her assistant, Han Ji-eun. This caught Han Ji-eun off guard. This is live news. The staff on site were completely at a loss. The team leader quickly intervened to stop Hualan. They moved on to the next segment. After the broadcast ended, the news director approached Hualan, accusing her of using the live stream for personal revenge. Hualan still carries herself with arrogance. The director had no choice but to present a new documentary series, planning to let Hualan host it, and Han Ji-eun would take over the news hosting. Gao Hualan felt it was very unfair. She had already been a news host for 7 years. She achieved the highest viewership in her time slot. Now they want to support a newcomer. However, the director didn't listen to her explanation. The news award should have gone to Han Ji-eun. It was given to her to save Hualan's face. Hualan returned home. She was even more frustrated seeing the fertility pills from her mother-in-law. Just then, her husband Jiang Taishu came back and went straight to his room. When faced with Hualan's request, he coldly replied, "Let's talk about it later." They had actually been separated for 7 years. Facing a career crisis and a broken family, Hualan was left wondering what to choose. At the gathering, Hualan wanted to hold Taishu's arms, but he instinctively pulled away, causing a burst of laughter from friends. At the dinner, everyone urged Hualan to have a baby soon. As women age, it becomes harder to conceive. This made Jiang Taishu next to her particularly awkward, because they have been separated for 7 years. Their once happy marriage is now shattered. To appear closer in front of friends, Hualan had to say she was ready to have a baby. Upon hearing this, Taishu silently lifted his glass. After the banquet, Taishu went straight to his study. Hualan pushed the door open. She angrily accused Taishu. "Why can't you just endure? Do you have to show it?" Taishu didn't refute. He just quietly continued with his tasks. Hualan said coldly upon seeing this. She worked diligently for her family. If it weren't for her income as a TV host, could he really act high and mighty here? These words completely enraged Taishu, because Hualan once aborted her unborn child for her career. This made Taishu furious. From then on, they began living apart. Taishu would never forgive Hualan again. He wouldn't do anything for her. Hualan returned to her room, staring silently at the mirror. She truly loves Taishu, but she can't earn his forgiveness. A late-night call woke Hualan from her sleep. A golf world champion. Kevin's flight is about to land. Kevin is the hottest player right now. Media outlets want to feature an interview with him. The TV station is no exception. Moreover, Hualan has a deal with the news director. If she can get an exclusive interview with Kevin, she can continue hosting the news segment. It's a great opportunity, and Hualan won't miss it. She must reclaim her position as a news anchor. Just as Hualan was getting ready to leave, Taishu suddenly grabbed her. My mother-in-law. She suddenly collapsed, even though CPR was performed. But she can't hold on for long. I can't go. I need to pick up the guest. At this moment, Hualan just wants to reclaim her position as the news anchor. She pushed Taishu's hand away and walked off. However, on her way to the airport, she was still hesitating. Should she go to the airport or say goodbye to her mother for the last time? In the end, she cried and gave up on her mother. Meanwhile, Taishu stood by the bed in pain. Before him was his mother-in-law, covered with a white cloth. At the same time, Hualan is frantically searching for Kevin at the airport. Suddenly, she's knocked down by a man with a suitcase. The man quickly helped Hualan up. When Hualan gets up, she's shocked. The man turns out to be her ex-boyfriend, and he is the subject she needs to interview, the golf world champion Kevin. At the funeral, Hualan was eating heartily from the table. At this moment, her husband came over and grabbed her. He urged her not to be too sad about her mother's passing. Hualan pushed him away. With tears in her eyes, she continued to eat. Just moments ago, Hualan saw the news anchor had changed to Han Ji-yuan. She immediately called her colleague, and learned that Han Ji-yuan's ratings had hit a new high. She is reluctant to give up the primetime show she worked hard to host. She won't just hand it over to someone else. She gathers her courage and plans to use an interview with star Kevin to reclaim her position as a host. Just a day ago, she ran into Kevin at the airport, and Kevin turns out to be her first love from 20 years ago. The former lovers have now turned into a star adored by many. Although Kevin has changed his name, they did not recognize each other, because Kevin's wife was standing right behind him. As the woman took off her glasses, she recognized Hualan at a glance, because she was actually her high school classmate, Xu Anju. Hualan planned to leverage Anju's connections to regain her position as a news anchor. At the funeral, she directly approached Anju. She requested to interview Kevin. The next day, in the press bureau, the director praised Han Ji-yuan for the record ratings. At that moment, Hualan walked in. She asked the director why he was so anxious. She will leave actively after proving her abilities. The director said meaningfully, I won't wait indefinitely for someone or put up with someone. Hualan responded with confidence. No need to wait. Today is the day. The director turned around in disbelief. When he arrived at the studio, the man on stage slowly turned around. It was Kevin, the superstar being interviewed by all the media. The director gave Hualan a thumbs up. Go up and chat warmly with Kevin. Announce that tonight's news is changed to Kevin's album. The host has also been changed to Gao Hualan. Han Ji-yuan immediately felt down upon hearing the news. When Hualan turned and saw Kevin smiling, she suddenly felt uneasy. When Hualan takes the script to the dressing room, Kevin is now measuring his upper body and preparing to change. Hualan shyly places the script on the table. She mentioned some reminders before preparing to leave. The two locked eyes. At this moment, memories from 20 years ago flashed in Hualan's mind. The young and beautiful Hualan wanted to succeed. She left her devoted boyfriend Li Ziying. Just go. But I'll always watch you. I'll see how far you can go. So you must take good care of yourself. Millimeter. I will. Kevin is no longer the ordinary Li Ziying. When Kevin sees his once beloved Hualan, what choice will he make? Gao Hualan suddenly kneels down, crying and begging for her mother-in-law's forgiveness. It turned out that while cleaning, the mother-in-law found her son Jiang Taishu's divorce agreement on the desk. She never thought the couple had been separated for 7 years. Moreover, her husband has never been in good health. To have a grandson, they keep putting up with them. It seems there's no need to bear it anymore. Hualan wants to explain to her mother-in-law, but her mother-in-law doesn't listen at all. Insisting on a clean break for the couple, Hualan reluctantly tells the truth. It's all my fault. 7 years ago, I had an abortion. It turned out that when Jiang Taishu proposed, Hu Lan initially refused, because Taishu's family background and social status were too different from hers, but Taishu promised Hu Lan he would make an effort to change. Faced with the man who loved her so much, Hu Lan still accepted the proposal. At the wedding venue, not a single relative from the groom's side came, because they had no faith in the marriage. After the marriage, they didn't even let the daughter-in-law in. Later, Hui Huan went for an interview to be a news anchor. Only then did she realize she was pregnant. To successfully become an anchor, she had to secretly terminate the pregnancy. When she became a primetime anchor, her father-in-law reluctantly accepted her as a daughter-in-law. At that time, she thought she could have another child later, but Taishu was too heartbroken to forgive Hu Lan. From then on, they started living apart. Meanwhile, Taishu stood outside feeling very guilty. He didn't expect that Hu Lan had been under such great pressure. He picked up the divorce agreement from the table and tore it apart. This is an issue between her and me. We'll sort it out together. Mom, you should go back. After the mother-in-law left, the couple sat down calmly together. Hu Lan confessed to Taishu about Secretary Kui's invitation. Because the Blue House has extended an olive branch, Hu Lan is one of the candidates for spokesperson, but there is a 1-month assessment period. She needs Taishu's family background for support. They couldn't divorce during this sensitive period. Taishu promised to fulfill his engagement commitment, to help Hu Lan achieve her dreams. When he asked why she went to Thailand with Kevin, Hu Lan was very surprised. She hadn't told her husband about going to Thailand. Hu Lan only said she was going to shoot Kevin's photo album. Also, the Blue House's ambassador will join. He made plans to play ball with Kevin. Is that really all? Millimeter. That's all. The next scene. Kevin swings the club stylishly. The crew is busy preparing for the shoot. The interview has just begun, but it suddenly started raining heavily. Jiang Taishu carries a suitcase. He plans to leave this home for good. He can't tolerate his wife's infidelity. Just a day ago, Kevin barged into Hu Lan's room. Hu Lan asked him to leave immediately, but he ignored her and shut the door. Hu Lan didn't want to keep entangled with Kevin. She started to struggle to break free. She accidentally dropped her brooch on the floor. At that moment, the front desk suddenly called. Hu Lan's husband, Jiang Taishu, has already arrived at the hotel. Hu Lan quickly leaves her room, fixes her clothes to greet Taishu. Seeing her husband come from afar, she can't help but feel surprised. Taishu's main purpose for this trip is to recommend Hu Lan to the ambassador for the Blue House. Whether Hu Lan can become the spokesperson for the Blue House, this person will play a crucial role. The ambassador is a senior from Taishu's institute. He took the initiative to contact his senior. He came to Thailand to help Hu Lan make connections. Hu Lan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. While they were chatting happily, Kevin was watching them closely from a distance. He quietly put Hu Lan's fallen brooch into his pocket. Taishu saw Kevin on the balcony. The two locked eyes. A bad feeling lingered in Taishu's heart. That night, Hu Lan looked at herself in the mirror in her pajamas. Still happy for my husband's arrival, she thought they could start over. But Taishu came to Thailand, just to fulfill his wedding promise, because Hu Lan's purpose in marriage was to leverage Taishu's fame and background. Taishu promised to help Hu Lan to become a representative of the Blue House. After saying that, he got up and left the hotel. Inside the bar, Taishu silently drinks alone. Hu Lan grabs the cup and drinks it all. She doesn't want to be seen as a mundane person obsessed with fame and power, but she has been looked down upon since childhood. She has to strive hard for success, even if she ends up in a mess. Even if she doesn't match Taishu's noble character and standards, it wouldn't make her stop. Taishu frowns slightly and picks up the cup, and took a small sip. Hu Lan wanted Taishu to go back to the hotel to rest. Even if Hu Lan sleeps on the sofa, she didn't want the staff to see their marriage troubles. These words ignited Taishu's anger. He grabbed Hu Lan's wrist. I'll handle it myself. You don't need to worry. Just then, Anju called out to Hu Lan from behind. It turned out Kevin and his wife also arrived at the bar. Taishu quickly released his grip, so the four of them started drinking red wine together. Kevin kept complimenting Hu Lan at the table. This made everyone feel quite awkward. Hu Lan couldn't take it anymore. She stood up and decided to go back for a rest, but Taishu said the two men needed another drink. Hu Lan hesitated, but she left with Anju first. At that moment, Kevin started talking about his first love. He hopes to hold her in his arms again, though he didn't say Hu Lan's name. But Taishu already knows. This made him very uneasy. Kevin then took out Huelan's brooch. It fell off earlier when we were together, because we were dizzy. Please give it to Miss Huelan. In the morning, the woman made a loving breakfast. She hurriedly delivered it to her husband's office. My husband didn't even glance. He made an excuse and hurried out. Last night, Taishu returned the brooch to Huelan. He said Kevin asked him to pass it on. Huelan understood everything upon seeing the brooch. Taishu couldn't stand his wife being entangled with Kevin, so he chose to stay in the office. Huelan didn't want to lose her husband, and she didn't want the Blue House to know about their troubles. Huelan called Kevin directly from a payphone with anger. She warned Kevin not to use such despicable means. If there's a slight slip, everyone will fall into the abyss. Kevin shrugged and said, so what? He just wanted Huelan, who abandoned him back then, to pay. Huelan threatened loudly, if you hurt anyone around, I'll kill you. Huelan couldn't sleep all night after returning home. She wanted to save their broken marriage. Huelan made a heartwarming breakfast for Taishu, but Taishu completely ignored it. Huelan casually picked up the documents on the table. She heard a colleague nearby say, Taishu has been very busy lately with the Korea-Japan steel case. Then Huelan had an idea. She thought about using the media to help Taishu. This could ease their marriage and expose the company's issues. When she arrived at the editorial office, she found out that all the negative news about Hwanri Steel over the years has been withheld. As a just host, how can she tolerate companies that underpay their employees and mistreat them without being exposed? Huelan immediately decided tonight's news must be revealed, no matter how strong their background is. In the studio, Huelan was preparing for the upcoming news. The team leader angrily approached Huelan, accusing Huelan of being too frivolous, because Hwanri Steel is a sponsor of the TV station. If the negative news is exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Huelan firmly rejected the team leader. Even if it means leaving her current hosting position, she will ensure Hwanri Steel gets the punishment it deserves. Soon, the scandal of Hwanri Steel aired. Public opinion was in an uproar. Not only did it put Hwanri Steel in the spotlight, even their image spokesperson Kevin was heavily criticized. Kevin's image was instantly shattered. After the news aired, Huelan approached the director. She planned to admit her mistakes. However, the director didn't take it seriously. Instead, he praised Huelan for her dedication to fairness. Huelan felt very happy after hearing that. She thanked the director. The director wanted to keep Huelan on. He believed Huelan wasn't suited for the Blue House circle. Huelan still wanted to give it another shot. She may regret it for a lifetime if she miss it. Huelan looked at the place she had worked for 7 years, and left reluctantly. Affected by the negative news of Hwanri Steel, Kevin's image collapsed. He planned to take revenge on Huelan. Ruined her path to the Blue House. Kevin secretly placed a gift in Huelan's car. Huelan hurried to the parking lot when she found out. She was shocked when she opened the envelope. The envelope contained a photo of her with Kevin. Late at night, Taishu saw a man get into his wife's car. Time passed by. He had no idea what happened inside the car. The anxious Taishu started to cry sadly. Just then, Huelan received a gift from Kevin. When she opened it, there were photos of them together in a hotel. Shocked, Huelan quickly put the photos into an envelope. She knew it was Kevin's revenge. She didn't want to make a big fuss over it, so she arranged to meet Kevin. As she drove out, Taishu happened to see her. Taishu didn't know where his wife was going so late, so he quietly followed her. But when he saw Kevin getting into Huelan's car, sad Taishu even burst into tears. Meanwhile, Huelan wearily returned home. Just then, Kevin's wife, Anju, called. Nervously, Huelan quickly tossed her phone aside. She just ignored it, lay on the sofa and fell asleep. The next day, Huelan was preparing for the upcoming news broadcast. At that moment, the assistant brought a news bulletin. She was stunned when she saw the bulletin. The news was about to go live. Huelan still couldn't believe the bulletin. Just a second before the broadcast, she managed to hold back her emotions. The news report has been broadcast. This morning, golfer Mr. Kevin tragically passed away in a car accident. The news segment has ended. When Huelan arrived at the office, she found the polices had been waiting for a long time. Last night, the last person Kevin met was Huelan. Moreover, her car was also in an accident last night. Clearly, she is a suspect. Hualan was immediately taken to the police station by the police for questioning. Hualan answered police's questions calmly and fluently. She believed she was innocent because she didn't kill anyone, but when the police produced a photo, Hualan instantly became unsettled. It was a brooch found at the crime scene, and it was worn by Hualan on the day of the incident. Faced with the police's pressing questions, Hualan didn't want to speak, nor could she. Just then, Hualan's husband, Jiang Taishu, entered the interrogation room. His purpose for coming this time is to help Hualan as her lawyer clear her name. Since there is no evidence that Hualan is the murderer, the police could only question her as a witness. After the questioning, they had to release her. As she left the interrogation room, Hualan still hasn't realized the seriousness of the situation. She thought it was just a witness investigation, but Taishu did not think so, because just half an hour ago, the police have classified the case as a murder. At this point, Hualan realized she was not cooperating as a witness, but was being investigated as a suspect for an alibi. Hualan desperately tried to explain to Taishu that she was not the killer, but Taishu said she could only remain silent until she cleared her suspicion. At that moment, Hualan saw that Taishu did not believe her at all, so she didn't follow Taishu's advice, because she doesn't need a lawyer who doesn't believe in her. She didn't kill anyone and has no need to escape. Hualan resolutely walked out of the police station, but waiting for her were numerous media reporters, and the doubts from her colleagues. In the wilderness, star player Kevin was involved in a bizarre car accident. He died on the spot. At the crime scene, a small brooch quickly caught the police's attention, so the police concluded it was definitely not a simple traffic incident, but it might be a murder. Just when all evidence pointed to Hualan, Hualan firmly denied it, insisting she was innocent. Facing the media's siege, she was very assertive. She accused the media of lacking integrity and sensationalizing, reporting news without factual basis. Meanwhile, the police investigation was also at a standstill. The autopsy revealed Kevin died from multiple skull fractures. Since the victim wasn't wearing a seatbelt, it can't be concluded that it was a fatal accident, or it was caused by an external impact. However, the victim's calf muscles were stiff, and there were no skid marks at the scene. Besides, there is no other evidence supporting murder. Detective Jiang approached the chief, requesting a search warrant for Gao Hualan's detention. He believes there are clues in Hualan's call, and in the driving records. There must be some traces, but the director thinks current assumptions alone are not enough to suspect Gao Hualan of murder. Moreover, Hualan is a well-known news anchor. If the media gets angry over insufficient evidence, the consequences could be severe. Officer Jiang had to leave reluctantly, but with his 30 years of investigative experience, still think this is not just a simple traffic accident. Meanwhile, Hualan returns to the newsroom. She prepares for the upcoming news broadcast, but her work uniform is missing in the studio. Upon asking, she learns it was the director's arrangement. Hualan rushes to the studio with anger. She finds her anchor position taken by someone new. She immediately goes to the director, seeking a reasonable explanation. The director helplessly stated, she can only be suspended for reflection now. It no longer matters whether she killed someone, because people has determined she is the murderer. We can only wait for the final investigation results. Only then can her suspicion be lifted. Hualan is speechless, having to comply with the director's arrangements. In the evening, Hualan drinks red wine alone. Taishu returns home, wants to listen to Hualan tell the truth. Hualan reiterates that she did not kill anyone, as her own defense lawyer. Why can't he trust her? But when Taishu asked about the brooch, why it was in Kevin's car, Hualan finally sees her husband clearly. He wasn't asking about the brooch, he was more concerned about what they did in the car. Hualan angrily insists she did nothing. Her relationship with Kevin was just that of a host and a guest. She has interviewed over 100 guests. Does everyone need to doubt her every time something goes wrong? With that, Hualan stood up and left. I told you I didn't sleep with him, you fool. Hualan back in her room, seeing the wedding photo on the table made her even angrier. She grabbed a pillow from the bed and threw it. In the mortuary, the woman was devastated to see her husband's body, but when the police asked about the events leading up to the incident, the woman had wandered her eyes. She appeared extremely anxious. She was evasive in response to the police's questions. However, Officer Jiang quickly noticed a detail. It was the mark of a ring on Anju's finger. The wife had taken off her ring right after her husband's death. This only deepened Officer Jiang's suspicions. Back at the police station, Officer Jiang was reviewing photos from the crime scene. Suddenly, one photo caught his eye. Kevin's ring was also missing. He recalled Anju's reaction during the day. Officer Jiang began to doubt their marital relationship. Could Kevin's accident be related to his wife? Meanwhile, Anju found the discarded ring below the sofa. Thoughtfully gazed at the ring in her hand. Finally, she put the ring back on. The scene shifts to Hui Lan's in-laws. They are watching news about Kevin's murder case. They can't accept their daughter-in-law's involvement in the case. Angry, the father-in-law urged the mother-in-law to call Taishu quickly, but Taishu did not answer. The next day the mother-in-law went straight to Taishu. She accused her daughter-in-law of murder. This made the whole family feel ashamed. They urged Taishu to break up with Hui Lan. Taishu is desperately explaining to his mother-in-law. A few people at the next table are also discussing about Hui Lan being suspected of murder, and mocking Hui Lan for her cheat on her husband, insulting Hui Lan for rising through her looks, etc. Taishu nearby can't stand it anymore. He slammed the table and hurried over. He threw a punch immediately. He knocked that person to the ground. Then he took out his business card. With confidence, he said, "Feel free to complain about me." This surprised his mother next to him. She didn't expect her son to be so impulsive, because Taishu sees Hui Lan as his wife. Even if the world judges her, he will definitely stand by her. He still loves Hui Lan. He won't break up with her. With that, he turned and left. Meanwhile, Hui Lan handed a resignation letter to the director's desk. She doesn't want to be doubted indefinitely, so she played her trump card. The director understood right away, because just now, the new host is underperforming. This has caused ratings to drop sharply. The director has already been scolded by the president. The director was worrying about the ratings. Naturally wouldn't accept Hui Lan's resignation. The news is about to start. The team leader hurriedly found the director, asking why Hui Lan is being reinstated. This could likely cause ratings to drop again, but the director believes news should be based on facts. He believes Hui Lan didn't commit murder. He also believes ratings will rise significantly. The news begins. Hui Lan appears on the news screen on time again. She first apologized to the audience. Then she clarified some false statements. She expressed her strong stance based on facts. She will also actively cooperate with the police investigation. The director was very pleased with the rising ratings. He couldn't help but feel that only Hui Lan understands news. Inside the parking lot, Taishu, who watched the news, has been waiting early. This is because Hui Lan was entangled with Kevin's case. Taishu feels very unhappy. He is now willing to believe what Hui Lan says, and he is eager to be Hui Lan's defense attorney. Hui Lan is very moved when she hears this. The two embrace each other again. Anju eats heartily from the food on the table. Her eyes are filled with unjust tears, but they do not flow down, because she knows she must stay strong. To take revenge for her deceased husband. Only then can she protect their unborn children. Because just now, sad Anju started packing her late husband's belongings. She plans to sell the house and move back to America. At that moment, a small memory card fell out of the pocket. Curious, Anju carefully picked it up. She plugged it into her computer. To her surprise, it was a video from Hui Lan's dashcam. The video started playing continuously. Kevin also appears in the video. Their actions and conversations in the car, all of them were shown in the video. On the other side, in the TV station's conference room, the president is furious about director Zhong's reappointment of Hui Lan. He accuses the director of being irresponsible. Although the ratings have greatly improved, Hui Lan's murder suspicion still stands. If the TV station gets implicated, the consequences would be unimaginable. Faced with the president's oppression, the director feels helpless too. Just then, the director suddenly received a message. He sneakily checked the message, and started to feel anxious. He quickly found Hui Lan. He shared the president's concerns with her, and there was a message reporting Hui Lan for murder. There are still many variables in the Kevin case. If the situation changes, the consequences could be unimaginable. As the head of the TV station, he can only plan ahead. To recall Han Jiyuan to replace Hui Lan. At night, Hui Lan sits on the sofa lost in thought. Taishu returned home to find his gloomy wife. He began to care for her silently. Hui Lan never expected to fail after over a decade of hard work. The president, director, and colleagues all think to bury her with the Kevin case. Moreover, the qualification for the Blue House's spokesperson is also gone. Life has turned out to be such a failure. Taishu encouraged his wife. At the same time, he took an envelope from his bag and handed it to Hui Lan. Hui Lan opened it. It was an invitation to a high-level judicial gathering. Taishu invited Hui Lan to join him. This gathering included top prosecutors, as well as friends from the legal field. Through their connections, he hoped to help Hui Lan keep her position at the TV station. Hui Lan looked at Taishu in disbelief. She can't believe Taishu would do this. The thing of using connections to find shortcuts, because Taishu has always held a high moral standard and despises such behavior. But now, he has to protect his wife, including everything that belongs to her, even if it shakes his own beliefs. Hui Lan was moved to tears upon hearing this. The scene shifts. Hui Lan appeared at the legal conference, arm in arm with Taishu. At that moment, the lawyer representative took the initiative to greet Taishu. The two exchanged greetings. After that, they took Taishu straight into the Gold Gate Club. This club is an exclusive organization of the Korean judicial community. It was founded by alumni from Korea's law school. It is an elusive power organization that both exists and doesn't. Soon after Taishu entered, Hui Lan received a threatening text from a stranger. It told Hui Lan to give up resisting. Even finding the best lawyer would be useless. Hui Lan quickly realized, this person is likely at the scene. Hui Lan looked around attentively. Suddenly, a masked man flashed by. She quickly ran after him. She chased him to the underground garage. Just as she was about to search around, she realized her car had been spray-painted. Gao Hui Lan is a murderer. As a popular TV anchor, her car was vandalized. By the time Taishu arrived, the man had already escaped. Who could be so despicable? Taishu immediately checked the surveillance footage, but the perpetrator was entirely covered, so the face was unrecognizable. It was clear he came prepared. However, the hallway camera did capture part of his appearance. Hui Lan recognized him at a glance. That man is Kevin's agent, Bai Dongxian. Hui Lan quickly found information about Bai Dongxian from a friend. It turns out Bai Dongxian not only drives under the influence but also gambling with embezzled funds. He even has a shady record with loan sharks. Moreover, he has a sister who relies on dialysis to live. The scene shifts to Bai Dongxian sneaking into the hospital. Seeing no one around, he goes straight to his sister's room. At this time, Hui Lan had been waiting for a while. Bai Dongxian was shocked to see Hui Lan. He accused Hui Lan of disturbing his sick sister, because Hui Lan has already investigated the other party's background. Plus, the blackmail has no evidence. This could definitely land him in prison, but he has the original photos of Hui Lan and Kevin in the hotel. If those photos leak from him, Hui Lan will also be ruined. At this moment, Hui Lan remains very calm, because she has already paid for Bai Dongxian's sister's medical expenses in full, and arranged a kidney transplant. Hui Lan just wants the original photos back. Bai Dongxian didn't want to let his sister down. He had no choice but to agree to the deal. Meanwhile, Anju saw the video captured on the dashcam. Her husband and old friend had an affair. Heartbroken, Anju decided to take revenge on Hui Lan. She arrived outside Taishu's law firm, pretended to run into Taishu. At the same time, she invited Hui Lan for tea. She pretended to be pitiful. She asked for Taishu's help. Due to Kevin's constant scandals, his endorsement harmed the company's image, which made Anju pay 3 times the contract fee. But Taishu, claiming he wasn't good at economic cases, he rejected. He also recommended a good colleague. Although Hui Lan didn't know Anju's intentions, she saw that Anju was vulnerable and pregnant. She made Taishu agree to Anju's request directly. Taishu reluctantly took out his business card. He only wanted to focus on Hui Lan's case. Now he had to divide some time to help Anju. At parting, Anju purposely said she would take the subway, because Hui Lan was going to do a live stream. She had to suggest that Taishu take Anju home. Anju seemed to refuse but still agreed. Hui Lan stood by the window, watching the way Anju looked back while leaving. A bad feeling is growing stronger in my heart. That night, Hui Lan was getting ready for her next livestream. Suddenly, she received a message from Taishu. I will have dinner at Anju's before going home. Hui Lan felt dazed upon seeing the message. She seemed to sense Anju's intentions. Outside the prison, Hui Lan waited anxiously. She wanted to request a visit with an inmate named He Mingyu. However, Mingyu refused the visit. He couldn't recall how many times he had rejected Huilan's visits. But today is Huilan's last visit. Huilan had to give the postcard to the guard. She asked the guard to pass it to Mingyu. Mingyu gently opened the postcard in his cell, seeing the content on it. His lips curled slightly, but his eyes were filled with tears. Because Huilan is getting married. She is starting her own life. Mingyu felt excited but also a little heartbroken, because he used to be Huilan's dependable friend. Mingyu has developed feelings for Huilan. However, fate does not follow human wishes. Huilan's family lives in poverty. She wants to go to college, but her mother can't afford tuition. But college is the only way to escape her hardships, to achieve her dreams and raise money for tuition. Huilan has to take risks. She went to a jewelry store. She plans to borrow some money from the store. Once she gets to college, she will start working to pay back. The eager jeweler immediately agreed to Huilan's request. He said she could come to collect the money by 9 p.m. Huilan was overjoyed. Mingyu had waited for Huilan at the school gate till the night. When he heard from classmates that Huilan went to the jeweler, Mingyu felt uneasy and hurried to the jeweler. When he arrived at the jeweler's door, Huilan, looking disheveled, was taken aback. But Huilan said nothing happened. Mingyu pushed Huilan away with anger. He rushed straight in. "19 years passed in the blink of an eye. Mingyu was released from prison after serving his sentence. He didn't contact Huilan directly. Instead, he went to Taishu's law firm. He wanted to apply for a lawyer position. Taishu glanced at the resume. Mingyu had passed the law exam. He has a criminal record for murder despite being in college. Taishu initially wanted to refuse him. However, Mingyu revealed the reason for the murder. It was because his friend had suffered. He couldn't turn a blind eye to it. Taishu looked at Mingyu again. Finally, he decided to give him a chance. After saying that, he took out a photo from his bag. The photo was of Kevin's manager, Bai Dongxian. On the other hand, Officer Kang is at an impasse with no leads in Kevin's case. Kevin's agent, Bai Dongxian, mysteriously disappeared. Officer Jiang deduced that Bai Dongxian must have important clues. At that moment, Bai Dongxian was on the phone with Huilan. They agreed to meet. She offered 100 million won to retrieve the original photo. Unexpectedly, just after the call, he ran into Officer Jiang. Seeing this, Bai Dongxian took off running. Officer Jiang hurriedly chased after him, but Bai Dongxian managed to escape. Bai Dongxian just escaped from Officer Jiang. He was targeted again by Mingyu hiding in the shadows. Mingyu approached and knocked him out with a punch. Huilan has been threatened by Bai Dongxian. Taishu just wanted to confirm if he really had evidence against Huilan. Meanwhile, Officer Jiang learned from hospital surveillance footage. The day before, Huilan secretly met with Bai Dongxian. Officer Jiang concluded that they might meet again. Finding Huilan would lead to finding Bai Dongxian. The scene shifts to Huilan arriving at the mall. Waiting for Bai Dongxian's arrival, Officer Jiang is also watching Huilan closely. A man in a baseball cap slowly walked over. He walked straight towards Huilan. He placed the original photo of Bai Dongxian on the corner of the table. Huilan instantly recognized Mingyu. They haven't seen each other for 19 years. Huilan was particularly excited. Mingyu. Huilan threw the memory card straight into the toilet, because it contained her photos with Kevin, from the hotel in Thailand. Such gossip must be destroyed immediately. Watching the memory card get flushed away, Huilan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Taishu took Anju to Huanri Steel. Taishu hoped both sides could reach an agreement, but Huanri Steel firmly insisted that it was Kevin and Huilan's scandal that harmed the company's image. Also, Kevin's strange death made things worse for the company. According to the contract, Kevin's wife must pay triple the contract fee, otherwise, a lawsuit will be filed. But Taishu believes the rumors are baseless. There is no evidence. If Huanri Steel files a lawsuit, Taishu will counter-sue for defamation. Now both sides cannot reach a settlement. Taishu had no choice but to leave. But as he left with Anju, Anju suddenly fell to her knees in pain. Outside the hospital, Taishu waited anxiously. The doctor conducted a check on Anju. The baby in her womb was developing well. There was nothing serious. She was just prescribed some calcium tablets. The moment Anju left the exam room, she mistook Taishu for her husband. At this moment, Anju wishes her husband could be with her, but it's already impossible. At the TV station's news conference, Han Ji-yuan discovered several recent security incidents. However, the construction companies involved are closely linked to Hwanri Steel. Ji-Eun believes that if they dig deeper, they might uncover even bigger news. Everyone knows that Hwanri Steel is a sponsor of the TV station. If mishandled, it could lead to serious trouble. The director believes that this cost-cutting happens every year. It's not a new report. Advised Ji-Eun to give up quickly. At this point, Hua-lan raised a different opinion. News isn't about promoting popular shows. It should criticize the issues at hand, and encouraged Ji-Eun to continue to explore hot topics from different angles. The meeting concluded. Ji-Eun found Hua-lan alone. Although she didn't understand why Hua-lan helped her, she still thanked Hua-lan. At that moment, Hua-lan understood that this was not just about grooming a successor, but also using the media to investigate Hwanri Steel. Just then, Hua-lan's assistant came over, handing a USB drive to Hua-lan. The scene shifts, and Hua-lan appears at a fancy restaurant. She glanced at the USB drive in her hand and walked in without hesitation. Not long ago, Hua-lan learned through her friend. The spokesperson for the Blue House has already confirmed it will be Zhang Xiancheng, so Hua-lan needs to act immediately. She doesn't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The suave Zhang Xiancheng just came out of the restroom. He ran into Hua-lan, who had been waiting for him. Hua-lan was straightforward. She took out Zhang Xiancheng's previous overseas gambling and be involved in the sex trade to threaten him. Zhang Xiancheng remained calm and did not care at all, because Hua-lan mentioned these rumors. The relevant authorities have clarified the matter. He is innocent. Hua-lan pulled out the casino surveillance video. Zhang Xiancheng immediately became anxious, because Hua-lan thinks Zhang Xiancheng is a snob. He doesn't deserve to represent the public. If Zhang Xiancheng becomes the spokesperson for the Blue House, so, the primetime news will report his overseas gambling scandal. Zhang Xiancheng was furious after hearing this, but he felt helpless. This is Hua-lan's last live news broadcast, because she is about to leave. This position she held for 10 years. Colleagues rushed in with champagne. They congratulated Hua-lan on her selection as the spokesperson for the Blue House. Just as everyone was ready to celebrate, the police suddenly called out to Hua-lan. She was arrested on suspicion of murder, because just 3 hours ago, Anju went to the TV station to find Hua-lan. She directly told her what the dashcam recorded. Hua-lan was shocked to hear this. Anju had watched the dashcam footage repeatedly. Although Hua-lan is not Kevin's killer, but her affair on Kevin makes it even harder for Anju to accept. Anju has lost everything now. She just wants Hua-lan to get what she deserves. So she blackmails Hua-lan with the dashcam's memory card. If the video content is made public, Hua-lan won't be suspected of murder, but the cheating rumors will be confirmed once and for all. If the video is destroyed, Hua-lan will forever carry the suspicion of murder. Hua-lan is caught in a dilemma, because she has no room for choice now. To preserve a bit of her dignity, she made no choices and didn't ask for Anju's forgiveness. She turned and walked out of the room alone. At that moment, Hua-lan broke down, because she couldn't bear to lose her beloved husband. Anju went straight to Officer Jiang after leaving the station. She didn't hand over the memory card. Instead, she reported to Officer Jiang that Hua-lan was a key suspect. Because the night Kevin was killed, he received a phone call right before leaving. And the caller was Hua-lan. Hearing this, Officer Jiang quickly informed the prosecutor in charge of the Kevin case, Bian Yuxian. Bian Yuxian was very hesitant. This clue was not enough to suspect Hua-lan of murder. Just as he was about to give up, he suddenly received a call from the Attorney General. The call ordered him to detain Hua-lan on suspicion of murder. Just moments ago in the news broadcast, Hua-lan revealed that the company, Hwanri Steel, is suspected of cutting corners and corruption scandals. It even implicated Representative Zheng, a former Supreme Court justice. As soon as the news broke, both government officials and Hwanri Steel were furious. They arrested Hua-lan urgently on charges of murder. Hua-lan quickly contacted her husband, but when Taishu saw Hua-lan's call, he hesitated for a long time but still didn't answer, because he recalled the footage from the dashcam. What about your husband? Do you love that guy too? I need him more than love, maybe. Is that all? That's all. Hua-lan's answer broke Taishu's heart. He didn't even want to answer Hua-lan's call. Instead, he came to the bar alone. What Hua-lan and Kevin did in the car makes Taishu angry and sad. He crushed the glass with his hand. Meanwhile, Hua-lan anxiously awaited Taishu's call. The next day, a drunk Taishu was awakened by hurried footsteps. He learned they were from the Central Prosecutor's office. They were there to raid Huelan's belongings. Taishu quickly called his assistant. He then found out Huelan was arrested last night. The key informant to the police was Anju. Taishu found the prosecutor's representative, Bian Yuxian. He accused him of acting solely on Anju's claims. He stated that arresting Huelan was unlawful. Moreover, the prosecution didn't disclose the reason for the arrest. Bian Yuxian didn't respond directly. Instead, he mocked Taishu coldly. But Taishu sensed the key issue, that someone higher up was manipulating the matter. When Taishu was watching his wife's dashcam, suddenly, a man appeared on the screen. What happened in the car next was unsettling. This broke Taishu's heart. He couldn't tolerate his wife's actions. He certainly couldn't let Anju blackmail Huelan. At this moment, Taishu still wanted to protect his wife's image. He immediately deleted the video and even formatted it repeatedly. After doing all this, he drove to the TV station, because just an hour ago, Huelan told Taishu she had good news about being appointed spokesperson for the Blue House. Taishu was very happy. He also bought flowers to celebrate with Huelan. But now, Taishu can only think of the image of Huelan with the man in the car. This left him restless and upset. He didn't answer Huelan's call. Instead, he went to a bar alone. At this moment, the media reported the news of Huelan's emergency arrest. The scene shifted. The Central Prosecutor's office arrived at the TV station. They need to seize the documents related to Huelan. All documents about Huanri Steele on the table were taken. Ji Yuan next to them seemed to understand something. She quickly contacted Huelan's assistant, informed him to properly save the Huanri Steele documents. As expected, the prosecutor quickly thought of the editing room. At that moment, Ji Yuan offered to show them the way. Ji Yuan led a group wandering around the building, deliberately stalling time, and falsely claimed to be new. The prosecutor sensed something was off. In the end, the director showed up, brought the prosecutor to the editing room. Meanwhile, the important files had already been copied. The assistant took advantage of the prosecutor's distraction and quietly handed the USB drive to Ji-yuan. However, the director had already seen through Ji-yuan's intentions. Ji-yuan had no choice but to hand over the USB drive. On the other side, Taishu learned from Huelan's friend. Huelan reported yesterday in the news the corruption in Jianghui's construction bidding and the corruption case involving Huanri Steele's supplies. The news just aired an hour, and Huelan was urgently arrested. Today, they also sealed the relevant documents and videos from the TV station. There must be some connection here. Taishu returned to the law firm, watching tonight's news. Yesterday, Huelan was to discuss the follow-up on the Huanri Steele corruption case. Not a word was mentioned about it today. Taishu realized that the murder accusation was just an excuse. He asked his assistant to inform Huelan. There was no follow-up report on Huanri Steele tonight. Huelan immediately understood everything. She had her assistant bring in Han Ji-yuan. Huelan told Ji-yuan that the emergency arrest had no basis. There was also no evidence to prove the murder. The aim was to stop the follow-up reports on Huanri Steele. This is power manipulating the media. Ji-yuan relayed Huelan's words to the director. The director let out a long sigh. The media must remain impartial and not be controlled by any force. He held an emergency meeting and decided to strike back, using the media to accuse the prosecution, arresting people without any evidence. Soon, Ji-yuan began today's news broadcast, and Taishu, as Huelan's defense attorney, interpreted this incident. He accused the prosecutor's office of negligence. During the emergency arrest, there was no public disclosure of the reasons or evidence for the arrest, but they remained silent. This doesn't meet the basic conditions for an arrest. If no new evidence is presented in 48 hours, Huelan will be released. When Anju heard the news of Huelan's acquittal, she was greatly disappointed. She wants to use the dashcam's memory card as new evidence to submit it to the prosecution. But when she opened her computer, she was instantly stunned. The files inside had been deleted. A man and a woman arrived at the hotel to book a room, but they were told the 15th floor was fully booked. They could only be arranged on other floors. This is because just moments ago, Councilman Zheng Dehan entered the hotel. Every time he comes here, the 15th floor goes into emergency mode. All access is restricted, because this is his territory. He keeps money and women here for bribery. Just a day ago, the prosecution found no evidence of murder. They had to release Huelan in court. Although she was declared not guilty, Huelan had no intention of giving up. She approached the head of the news bureau, pointing out links between Huanri Steele, Jiankui Construction, and Congressman Zheng Dehang. The tripartite collusion between government and business, even abusing judicial power. It's time to expose their true colors. Although the director despises playing with public opinions, he is also worried that Hualan will hurt herself. However, Hualan is unusually determined. Moreover, she plans to strike at the heart of the issue. She aims to target Congressman Zheng Dehang first. Hualan reaches out to her close friend. She inquires about information on Zheng Dehang. However, her friend thinks Zheng Dehang isn't worth risking her life for. But Hualan has already hit rock bottom. When a person has nothing left to lose, then they will be fearless and capable of anything, and she won't drag anyone down. Hualan called her assistant, and Han Jiyuan took out the data of Huanri Steel copy from her assistant. Because the USB drive has been with the director all along, so both were surprised to see the USB drive. Hualan asked if they wanted to continue the investigation. Now the director is on the side of the news. The director will risk everything as long as it's a decent news. Jiyuan believes this news was discovered by her. It's also the first news she charged, so it must be investigated thoroughly. After saying that, the assistant couldn't wait to set off. According to her friend's intel, Zheng Dahuan will check into Royal Hotel tonight. That evening, Hualan called the crime complaints hotline and reported Royal Hotel for suspected illegal activities. Soon, the police from the local station arrived at the hotel. Assistant Guo successfully filmed with a press pass, but the hotel manager and the police casually checked a few rooms. Nothing was found. However, the TV station's broadcast van was spotted by Zheng Dehang's men. Zheng Dehang was unfazed upon learning this. He directly contacted the TV station's president to stop the filming immediately. The president got furious upon learning this. He ordered Han Jiyuan to cease operations. Otherwise, her career would be over. He hung up after saying that. At this moment, Jiyuan hesitated, unsure of what to do. Hualan was anxiously waiting for Jiyuan, because the police search is about to end. Without the police's lead, it would be hard for them to access the 15th floor. At this moment, Ji Yuan suddenly appeared. She just hates being stepped on by others, even if it means risking her career. Zheng Dehang was hiding in a room on the 15th floor. Assistant Guo and the police were making no progress either. Hualan had a brilliant idea, and pulled the fire alarm. Hearing the alarm, Zheng Dehang thought the hotel was on fire. He ran out of the room in disarray. Jiyuan's camera was waiting for him, and the police's interrogation. At this moment, Zheng Dehang remained very arrogant. He shouted that even if the TV recorded it, they wouldn't broadcast it. Seeing this, Assistant Guo took out the camera. He started a live stream directed at Zheng Dehang. The footage was already being wildly streamed online. The public opinion was in an uproar. Zheng Dehang's negative news has gone viral. Now it's irreversible. The president had no choice but to agree to air his scandal as the headline of primetime news. When Hualan returned to the TV station, she saw the heart-shaped stickers on the wall by her colleagues. She was moved to tears. Just as Hualan and Taishu were about to go home, they encountered Anju. Anju lunged at Hualan with a fork. Taishu rushed to the front. At this critical moment, a hand grabbed Anju. The person was He Mingyu, just released from prison. Just a day before, Anju learned that Hualan was released unconditionally. Her heart sank. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain and collapsed. By the time passers-by took her to the hospital, the child was accidentally miscarried. Now Anju has nothing left. She decided to take revenge on Hu Yilon. Anju was shocked when she saw Mingyu appear. Helpless, she had no choice but to throw away the fork. The next day Taishu found Anju. He gave her a flight ticket to America. This let her escape from this sorrowful place, and it would lessen the threat to Hualan. But Anju still wouldn't let it go. She didn't understand. Taishu clearly saw Huilan's video. Why does he still have to support her? Anju mentioned the most painful part that hurt Taishu. Taishu appeared a bit agitated. He turned to leave. At that moment, Anju said, Huilan has killed multiple times. Taishu looked at Anju in surprise, because 19 years ago, a fool named He Mingyu killed the gem shop's owner for Huilan. Taishu finally understood. In Huilan's heart, there's an indelible He Mingyu. Huilan found Mingyu, whom she hadn't seen in years. She wants Mingyu to leave the past behind and start his own life. Do you love your husband? That person. Do you really love him? Huilan returned home. She saw Taishu alone in the study in a daze. But at this moment, Huilan felt so calm. She told Taishu everything about He Mingyu. After going through so much, she realized she had fallen for Taishu. She just wasn't sure about her feelings for him. It wasn't until she confessed everything to Taishu that after Hui Lan left, Taishu shattered the glass he was holding. Hui Lan intended to console Taishu, but she heard the crying from the room. Hui Lan felt uneasy. On the other side, several high-ranking officials connected to Zheng Dehan. They began to feel anxious. Though they couldn't stop Hui Lan's investigation, if they could win her over, things would be much easier. The president approached Hui Lan, informing her of her upcoming promotion to director, but Hui Lan was completely unfazed. She knows there's definitely a conspiracy here. She can't directly refuse the president's promotion. Hui Lan had to agree to consider it seriously. Meanwhile, just when Officer Jiang was at a loss, he suddenly received a tip. The informant claimed to be a witness to the Kevin case. She reported Hui Lan for suspected involvement in Kevin's murder. The next day, Hui Lan received the court's indictment. It's still the case of Kevin's murder. This time, the evidence for the murder is. Lawyer Jiang arranged this to frame Hui Lan. Hui Lan doesn't want to be falsely accused anymore, so she devised a plan. She approached the president and agreed to be promoted to director. The only condition is to have Lawyer Jiang handle her case, and to win this lawsuit. Lawyer Jiang was somewhat surprised to hear the news. For a self-arranged prosecution, now Hui Lan actually wants him to defend her. Meanwhile, Taishu learned through his assistant. Hui Lan has already been charged by the prosecution. He immediately called Hui Lan, but Hui Lan didn't want Taishu to defend her. Instead, she arranged for another lawyer. After that, Hui Lan hung up the phone. However, there is only a week left until the trial. There is still no response from Lawyer Jiang. Hui Lan can't help but feel anxious. She has to remind the president not to forget the previous agreement. However, Lawyer Jiang is not worried at all, because he is fully prepared. The scene changes. Hui Lan appears in Lawyer Jiang's meeting room. Approaching her is her defense lawyer. Hello, I am Jiang Taishu, Gao Hui Lan's defense lawyer. The man prepared a lavish candlelit dinner, but after Hui Lan sat down, she didn't even look at it. She picked up the wine glass and started drinking. This left Taishu puzzled. Then Hui Lan immediately suggested a breakup. Let's break up, Jiang Taishu. I think I've fallen for you, Taishu. So let's end it here. With that, Hui Lan went straight back to her room. She saw the roses and gifts that Taishu prepared on the vanity. Hui Lan suddenly broke down in tears. When she opened the gift box, there was a beautiful necklace inside. Hui Lan knew that Taishu loved her dearly. She also fell deeply in love with Taishu. But now, to spare Taishu more pain, she could only choose to break up. During the day, her mother-in-law found Hui Lan, because Hui Lan was suspected of murder. The family feels embarrassed by the arrest. Father-in-law is a respected figure in law. Taishu is a public defender who helps the weak. However, Hui Lan's actions humiliate them. The mother-in-law can only advise them to divorce quickly. Now Hui Lan is charged by the prosecution again. She doesn't want Taishu to be hurt again. She can only choose to break up with Taishu. Meanwhile, Taishu's assistant rushes over. He tells Taishu that the prosecution found a witness for the Kevin case. This trial will be exceptionally difficult. Taishu seemed to ponder after hearing this. To win the case, Hui Lan has already reached an agreement with the president, and Lawyer Jiang is in charge of her case against the prosecution. Hui Lan arrived at Lawyer Jiang's meeting room. She was waiting for her defense attorney, but the person who arrived was her husband, Jiang Taishu. Hui Lan couldn't believe her eyes. It turned out that Taishu wanted to help Hui Lan. He gave up his own law firm and joined attorney Jiang's team, specifically handling Hui Lan's case. Meanwhile, Officer Jiang found a witness, but couldn't feel happy. He and his colleagues discussed the case over drinks. The timing of the witness's appearance was too suspicious. They couldn't find a reasonable explanation. This made Officer Jiang feel very uneasy. Taishu used the excuse of discussing the case. He took Hui Lan to the little restaurant where they used to eat when they were in love, and Taishu's ultimate goal was to salvage his failed marriage. But Hui Lan refused, because they were wrong from the start. It wasn't just one party's fault. It was caused by the differing needs of both sides. Whether Taishu defends Hui Lan, it won't change anything. Nothing can be redone. But Taishu still wants to make amends. Hui Lan still refused. Outside the restaurant, Kevin's manager, Bai Dongxian, was secretly watching Hui Lan. Ever since Kevin's death, he has held a grudge against Hui Lan. Seeing that Anju now has nothing, his hatred for Hui Lan has deepened. At that moment, Hui Lan had just exited the restaurant. Bai Dongxian drove straight over. At a critical moment, Taishu rushed to save Hui Lan. Then, Taishu angrily approached Officer Jiang. Coincidentally, Anju was there too. Taishu accused Anju of telling Bai Dongxian to threaten Hui Lan. Anju claimed she had been stopping Bai Dongxian. Now there is a witness. Hui Lan will get the sentence she deserves. If Bai Dongxian messes up, it will backfire. Taishu said he will apply immediately the no-contact order between Hui Lan and Bai Dongxian. If another abnormal threat incident occurs, he will be charged with special threat offenses. Taishu, in order to win the lawsuit, found the prosecution's lawyer, Bian Yuxian. He wants to know about the witnesses' clues. Bian Yuxian mockingly refuses to reveal any information. Identity information is the kind of clue that can be shared. He was still refused to reveal. He plans to surprise everyone at the trial. Hui Lan looked at herself in the mirror, full of confidence, because she is attending today's court hearing. Could she clear her suspicion of the murder today? At that moment, she saw Taishu's missed call. She called Taishu directly, but Taishu told Hui Lan not to go out. Before Taishu could finish explaining, Hui Lan opened the door directly, and it was Officer Jiang who came in. Officer Jiang came for Bai Dongxian. Bai Dongxian had been missing for several days, concerned that he might threaten Hui Lan again, so he came to check the situation briefly. At that moment, Hui Lan's phone suddenly rang. It was about Taishu's unexpected injury. He has already been taken to the hospital. Hui Lan was anxious and worried, driving straight to the hospital. While she was frantically looking for Taishu, Taishu suddenly called out to Hui Lan. Seeing Taishu safe and sound, her anxious heart finally relaxed. Just as Taishu was preparing to attend the trial, he suddenly received a message. The message said they wouldn't let Hui Lan appear in court. Taishu thought Hui Lan was in danger. He quickly informed Hui Lan to stay indoors. Just after hanging up the phone, he was attacked by Bai Dongxian. Seeing no one around, Bai Dongxian swung a stick at Taishu. At that moment, Mingyu suddenly appeared. He kicked Bai Dongxian to the ground. Hui Lan rushed forward and hugged Taishu tightly. She had never felt so worried. The scene shifts. Taishu and Hui Lan appear in the courtroom, surrounded by numerous media. Taishu entered the court holding Hui Lan. The trial has begun. Prosecution represented by lawyer Bian Yuxian. He made a brief statement about Kevin's murder. He believes Hui Lan killed Kevin and staged it as an accident. Then she ran away. The eyewitnesses from that time have now been found. Hui Lan denies the charges made by Bian Yuxian, and she refuses to accept any suspicion. The judge requests the witness to appear. Everyone at the scene is extremely tense. The witness has arrived. Bian Yuxian began questioning the witness. The witness's name is Wu Minjia. He is a retired university president. He was nearby, resting in his car at the time of the incident. He saw two people arguing nearby. One of them was Kevin. When Bian Yuxian asked if the argument with Kevin was with a woman, Wu Minjia replied it was a man. The man pushed Kevin's head against the wall. After that, Kevin didn't move. Then he was moved to the car. However, there was another person in the car. It was Gao Hui Lan, who sat in the defendant's seat. The audience let out a sigh. At this moment, Bian Yuxian also showed a proud smile. During the court recess, Assistant Guo believes the incident happened over 2 months ago. The situation escalated from investigating witnesses to an emergency arrest. The previously hidden witness suddenly appeared. There must be something wrong. Ji Yuan, sitting nearby, was also very confused. She suddenly remembered an interview from senior Hui Lan. It was about the private school cheating scandal. And the principal is Wu Minjia. This witness seems increasingly suspicious. Next, the court began questioning Hui Lan. Hui Lan still denies killing anyone. Her relationship with Kevin was just that of ordinary guests. Bian Yuxian learned about it through Anju. Hui Lan and Kevin were lovers 10 years ago. He also presented the memory card seized from the editing room. It contains a video of Hui Lan and Kevin in the office. This is enough to prove their relationship. Taishu immediately raised an objection. However, the judge did not support it. Hui Lan reluctantly revealed that, 10 years ago, they were in a relationship. Bian Yuxian thinks Hui Lan sees Kevin as a burden. Kevin's attachment to Hui Lan becomes stronger. After Hui Lan received the proposal to be a spokesperson for the Blue House, Their relationship quickly cooled. This finally escalated into a murder case. Taishu was shocked upon learning about Hualan and Kevin's relationship. Now it was time for Taishu to ask questions. After 2 minutes of eye contact with Hualan, he decided not to question Huilan anymore. The judge immediately announced, "The next hearing will be in 3 days. Hualan is accused of murdering Kevin. The prosecution has found eyewitnesses. According to witnesses, Hualan hired a hitman. They then staged the murder scene." As Hualan's defense lawyer, Taishu, he feels very conflicted. He can't find reasons to refute the accusations. The judge had to declare a recess. The next hearing will be in 3 days. On the way home, Hualan feels down. It's not just because the first trial failed, it also caused Taishu to be hurt again. At this moment, Taishu seemed to sense something. He quietly took Hualan's hand. That night, Taishu arrived at the law firm. He analyzed the case with his assistant. The crime scene was an abandoned construction site. The scene was completely empty. They couldn't find anyone to disprove the witness. Taishu looked at the photos of the crime scene. Seems thoughtful. He asked his assistant to return to the crime scene at night. Because the incident happened at 3 in the morning, he needed to take photos from the witness's position, hoping to find some flaws. Although the assistant was reluctant, he had no choice but to go again for the case. After the assistant left, Taishu opened the envelope on the table. When he saw the contents inside, he was stunned and pale. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. At that moment, Officer Jiang walked in. Taishu quickly hid the letter behind him. Officer Jiang came regarding the missing Bai Dongxian's last cell phone location. It was near Taishu's law firm. At that moment, Taishu's mind was racing. He even recalled images from before the trial. When Officer Jiang asked about the wound on his forehead, Taishu lied and said he was up all night preparing for the trial. He accidentally fell due to exhaustion. However, Officer Jiang did not let it go. He immediately voiced his suspicions. While investigating Kevin's accident scene, he found someone took the bus and left the scene. Now there is a witness. All the pieces are coming together. After speaking, Officer Jiang left directly. Taishu stood still alone. Meanwhile, Huilan returned home and opened her computer. She prepared to fight against the forces behind the prosecution and strike back. The next day, Huilan handed a new proposal to Jiyuan. She didn't want to give up easily. She also aimed to expose the prosecution's abuse of power and evidence fabrication. At that moment, Assistant Guo snatched the proposal. He stated that he wanted to join in. Huilan remarked that they were targeting her. They actually faked witnesses. Such excessive tactics are simply intolerable. The other side is now fully prepared, so they need to be more cautious during the investigation. If this plan becomes public, then it won't be just 1 or 2 people who are in danger. Jiyuan believes that if they succeed, the first person will die is prosecutor Bian Yuxian. Now Huilan's final target is not Bian Yuxian, it's actually about bringing down those behind him. At this moment, Li Yanjun, who was hiding behind, was eavesdropping on their conversation. Li Yanjun approached Jiyuan, asking for details about Huilan's project plan, but Jiyuan said nothing. Huilan was retaliated against because of the case of Huanri Steele and Councilman Zheng's, and she really didn't kill anyone, so the person who was used was Bian Yuxian. After Jiyuan left, Li Yanjun hurriedly called her husband Bian Yuxian. She advised him not to trust lawyer Jiang and the others. If they default, he'll be the one who takes the blame. However, everything Li Yanjun said was recorded by Huilan's detectaphone. This is just the first step of Huilan's counter move. In the courtroom, Taishu directly accused Wu Minjia of fabricating evidence. When Taishu presented the crime scene photos, Wu Minjia was vague about his position at that time. When Taishu asked for the exact location of Huilan's vehicle, he replied that he was flustered and couldn't see clearly. Taishu retorted that he accurately witnessed the murder. He even clearly saw Huilan's face, but he couldn't see the vehicle's position. Wu Minjia looked a bit anxious. He hadn't had a chance to explain yet. Taishu showed another photo. It's a photo taken at 3 in the morning. It matches the time of the incident perfectly. There were only 2 small streetlights at the scene. The rest was pitch dark. From the position described by Wu Minjia, nothing was visible at all. Moreover, It was snowing heavily at that time. Even if a murder really happened then, from the witness's point of view, not to mention the scene of the murder, one couldn't even recognize faces. Wu Minjie was momentarily speechless. Bian Yuxian sensed the situation was bad and quickly raised an objection, but it was ruthlessly dismissed by the judge. Taishu pressed on. He mentioned a case from a few years ago that Hu Yilan reported on, the high school bribery case. And the principal at that time was Wu Minjie. Wu Minjie felt even more indignant about this. He accused Hu Yilan of fabricating news. She colluded with several teachers to frame him. Taishu boldly asked if it was to retaliate against Hu Yilan that he testified falsely. Wu Minjie trembled. He simply stated he had not given false evidence. The audience sighed in disappointment. At this moment, Taishu requested the judge to call a witness, the one who could explain the relationship between Hu Yilan and Wu Minjie. And he is Director Zhong from the News Bureau. Director Zhong took the witness stand. He explained the high school bribery case to the judge. The TV station has footage from the news at that time. After the news report, he received a threatening letter from Wu Minjie. The content was very brutal, but it was mainly aimed at Hu Yilan. Moreover, the threat letter is still kept. It can be presented to the court anytime if needed. Then, Director Zhong raised his doubts in court. The news about Huanri Steel aired less than 2 hours ago. Hu Yilan was urgently arrested. Shortly after the scandal of Senator Zheng Daihan was exposed, a witness appeared. It all seems to be orchestrated. All actions in court. It's all about cracking down on the media. Once this was said, the audience applauded eagerly. Meanwhile, Bian Youxian's expression grew worse. Finally, the court believes that witness Wu Minjie's testimony contradicts the facts. There is no evidence to support this testimony. Regarding the defendant, Gao Hu Yilan, there is no suspicion of murder due to insufficient evidence. She was acquitted. Hu Yilan silently looked at Taishu. The scene changes. Wu Minjie approached lawyer Jiang. He asked about the next steps, as Hu Yilan has accused him of perjury. But lawyer Jiang hung up the phone directly. He didn't want to get into trouble because of Wu Minjie. However, all of this was photographed down by assistant Guo secretly. In TV station conference room, Hu Yilan and Ji Yuan were discussing how to expose lawyer Jiang. At this moment, Li Yanjun found Hu Yilan. She begged Hu Yilan to help Bian Yuxian. If Bian Yuxian is implicated in witness tampering, his career as a prosecutor would be over. Life won't be easy in the second half. Hu Yilan looks at Li Yanjun. She decides to help her this time. She finds Bian Yuxian. She presents evidence of lawyer Jiang's illegal bidding. She tells him to arrest lawyer Jiang. But Hu Yilan just wants the evidence of forged witness. Bian Yuxian can only make a deal with Hu Yilan. Soon, Bian Yuxian brings the prosecution. They seize all of lawyer Jiang's documents. In the evening news, Ji Yuan revealed the video of lawyer Jiang forged the witness. With a string of revelations, lawyer Jiang faced destruction as well. After leaving the studio, Hu Yilan felt relieved. Just as she was getting ready to go home, she suddenly collapsed on the ground. This is the first time in 7 years of marriage that Hu Yilan is having dinner with her in-laws. Even though they are family, Hu Yilan still feels particularly nervous. This is because Hu Yilan was previously accused of murder, which brought shame to her in-laws. Her mother-in-law even pressured Hu Yilan to get a divorce. Now, her mother-in-law has come to the house early, and she brought a nanny to cook for Hu Yilan. This leaves Hu Yilan pleasantly surprised. However, she still apologized to the elders for the past. Grandma felt very pleased, because no matter what, the outcome was still good. However, what Grandpa said next left Hu Yilan a bit at a loss. Grandpa was eager to know Hu Yilan's next plan, because they had already taken down lawyer Jiang and Zheng Dehan, which proved Hu Yilan's significance. He knew this was certainly not Hu Yilan's end, and Hu Yilan's response made even the stern Grandpa smile. Hu Yilan knows that only by climbing higher and going further can she earn more respect from others, so she strives for justice bravely. The father-in-law looks at his daughter-in-law with great satisfaction. Surprisingly, he has a big appetite. After the meal, the in-laws leave by car. Watching the vehicle drive away, Hu Yilan feels inexplicably happy. After 7 years of marriage, she finally gained her in-laws' approval. Lost in joy, Hu Yilan slowly tidies up Taishu's desk alone. An envelope in the drawer caught her eye. Hu Yilan opened it. It was a traffic violation ticket. She hadn't paid much attention at first, but the ticket showed the time and place of the violation. This made Hu Yilan feel anxious, because Kevin's incident happened near that location. The timing matched perfectly too. Hu Yilan could hardly believe it was real. She held back her pain and quietly shed tears. At that moment, The door suddenly opened. Hualan hurriedly put the ticket back in the drawer. Just then, Taishu arrived at the door. Hualan came out holding a book. Taishu made an excuse to go home for something. He turned and went back to his room, but when he saw the ticket in the drawer, he realized Hualan had moved it. He glanced at Hualan on the sofa. They chatted calmly for a moment, then Taishu turned and left. When Hualan returned to the room, the ticket in the drawer had been taken by Taishu. At that moment, Hualan suddenly received a call. It was from the Central District Prosecutor's office. The brooch found with Kevin has been cleared of suspicion. They informed Hualan to retrieve the brooch. When she arrived in the hallway, Officer Jiang had been waiting for a long time. Although Hualan didn't kill anyone, she remains the prime suspect, because the real culprit framed her, and it was someone close enough to access the brooch. Hualan felt a wave of nervousness upon hearing this. Meanwhile, Taishu prepared a lavish dinner, but when he got home, he found the house empty. He called Hualan and found she was out celebrating with colleagues. He waited for Hualan to return. She was so drunk that she was out of it. She pushed Taishu away. She said she needed some quiet and went back to her room alone. At that moment, Hualan was in great pain. Her beloved husband had framed her. The next day, Hualan's friend called. She wanted to meet with Hualan. Just then, the friend had seen Anju. She learned from Anju about Taishu. He destroyed evidence proving Hualan's innocence, and the brooch in the car was likely planted by the killer. Just as her best friend finished the call and was about to leave, a man in black suddenly appeared. He swung an axe and charged at her. Hualan was in immense pain. She questioned Taishu about why he killed Kevin. She couldn't believe that lawyer Jiang, who was usually fair and just, could do something like this. Taishu looked at the suffering Hualan. He admitted to killing Kevin. Just now, Hualan saw Taishu getting dressed to go out. She couldn't help but remember something. She went to the wardrobe and found her husband's clothes were brand new. His shoes were also spotless. When looking at Taishu's bank statements, she discovered he bought the clothes and shoes the day after the incident. They were identical to the previous styles. Hualan could hardly believe her eyes. At this moment, Taishu returned. He saw the clothes on the bed and the bill in Hualan's hand. He knew he could no longer hide it. He directly told Hualan the truth. That day, Taishu came home. He saw Hualan on the sofa. He couldn't help but recall Hualan and Kevin's behavior in the car. This made Taishu extremely angry. When he saw the brooch he gave to Hualan, he became even angrier. He tore off the brooch and turned away. When he didn't catch she gain nothing at all. What is happiness, really? The answer seems quite obvious now. Cherish the happiness you have now. Don't just rush ahead and forget about the scenery around you. Happiness is like a mist, ethereal, yet very real. You have it in the moment. You might lose it in the next. Hold on to what you have and enjoy it. That's the best choice of living in the present.